what are some challenges that you faced while you're starting your own business in Japan? You can be brutally honest, all right, guys? You can be brutally honest.
To find partners in Japan, it's kind of hard to do cold calls over the internet. I ended up spending over 110 days in Japan last year because it just became brutally clear to me that because of the language barrier, I ended up having to find a really good interpreter who spoke technically and could also translate back and forth my message. Finding all of those pieces and putting them together is kind of what made it hard, but on the other side of it here, it was all worth it.
I think that the challenge was to avoid the Japanese cliche. Sometimes you are disappointed because it's difficult in Japan with the tatemaeone. So they have this poker face, they don't share spontaneously. And as Jamel was saying, you need to build trust to really understand their pain. So the struggle in Japan, besides the administrative burden, which is intense, is to really know your target.
To observe the non-verbal cue, for me, one example is to allow the silence in the meetings, not willing to have discussion, an ongoing discussion. It was quite a surprise at first.
After moving to Japan and seeing that there was so many problems, it kind of became an issue of, if I don't do it, maybe nobody will, and the problem needs to be solved. And so that developed into what we're working on now.
What have you done? Who do you know? And getting those warm introductions is so important because those are going to be your first early testimonials. Person knows what he's doing. I've had success. And I think with here in Japan, there's this adage of Japanese don't really brag as much as you'd see with other countries. They tend to under-promise and over-deliver, with in America where we over-promise and then it's good enough, 80% of what we promised. It doesn't really fly here.
Let's get started, minasan. So welcome everyone. So we're going to talk about starting a startup in Japan. What every entrepreneur needs to know. We will learn from our recent cohort of Founder Institute founders who is probably high possibility will graduate. As you know that we accept more people and graduate pretty less of them. So we're going to learn a lot of things from them and so on. All right, this event hosted by the Founder Institute Japan. So my name is Erdinç Ekinci. I'm the local director of this program. So whether you are an innovator or entrepreneur or an investor, this event is all for you guys because you can really learn your fresh insights from new entrepreneurs. What kind of hardship they are facing and so on. And Japan is pretty unique and exciting place, but sometimes, actually, most of the time, it's really challenging place to build a startup. So, and we have gathered an incredible panel of founders here, and they all are experts in their own field to help you guys to navigate it if you consider to start a company or if you consider to support a company, support a startup company as an investor, mentor, and so on. So we will learn all. We're gonna talk about mostly about the challenges to start a business in Japan, and trust me, it's going to be very much relevant with the other audience that will join us today. For example, from Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, and so on. Okay, let's get started. So we're gonna start with a quick intro for each person from each person. So first person going to be introduced himself is JB. Would you like to start first? Give us a quick introduction. Would you like to start?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Jamil Hampton, founder of Naka Industries. We're an advanced pyrolysis technology company that converts plastic waste into circular oils as feedstock for the circular economy. So my business partner and the inventor of our systems actually is Japanese, lives in Japan. And so the low-hanging fruit for us was kind of to tap into the Japanese market since we're already there, have small-scale R&D facilities in operation, and we had demand from buyers in the area. So the Asia Pacific market is our next goal, but Japan is our start. And we have, of course, run into some regulatory, some registrations, and just partnership and every other type of issue that could come up when trying to do business in a new market. So yeah, lots of complaints, as we would say, but also path forward. So excited about that.
Yeah, definitely excited. Okay, thank you for joining us today. And let's go to the next person. Honestly, I don't have a list. Let's go with random. It's much more fun, right? Who wants to go next, guys?
Yeah, I'll go
Richard?
next.
Okay.
Yeah. So my name is Richard Orman. I'm the founder of Nakatomi. We're a cybersecurity company. We're focused on helping startups and small businesses establish security programs, and that includes deploying all the policies and procedures that you need to manage the human element and with the technology selection. So when we help you build out your cloud infrastructure, you're selecting all the right security tools when you need it. So there's no guesswork. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right. How about Sandrine? Would you like to go next?
Hi.
And Mary.
No, it's fine. It's the same. So, hi, I'm Sandrine. I'm from Belgium and I've been in Japan for 3 years. And with Marie, we build Lemon Boost. Lemon Boost help women to relaunch their career after a break. So basically, we help women to get back on their feet, stronger and job ready for the next step of their career.
Amazing.
Maybe I
Okay.
can continue because I'm the other side of the lemon. Our brand is called Lemon Boost. So nice to meet you all. I'm Marie. I'm French and Cameroonian, lost in Japan. And yes, following my husband in his assignment, been living in Asia for the past 10 years. Struggling to adjust to Japan, of course, as a woman. We know that. That's why we want to empower women and make them visible and hireable by company committed to another kind of hiring process.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you for joining us both. I think it's very much necessary and very much related about our topic today. Your startup is also doing. Okay, Sydney, shall we try?
All right, we're gonna give it a try. I'm gonna get very close to my screen here. So I'm Sydney, founder of Menuless. We're actually a restaurant tech platform with making technology for platforms that are trying to give you access to menus here in Japan. So I'm gonna drop my LinkedIn right there in case anybody actually wants to use it. We currently have a demo out. And basically we're trying to solve the problem of it's getting very easy to come to Japan. Unfortunately, once you get into a restaurant, it's a little bit hard to actually know what you're ordering. Ends up being an issue for both the dining staff and the people that are coming, trying to just have a nice meal. So this is what we work on. We use AI in the background, coupled with human research, because we believe that sustainability is going to be the future of us in Japan. I'm from America originally, have been living in Japan for 3 years, and yeah, I'm a journalist turned founder. So it's been a very interesting journey.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, joining us today. So let's start with a quick run through, like with the short answers, maybe perhaps. Would like to really know about what inspired you to, start your own company. I mean, honestly, we talk many times and I know it, but I think audience should know too, so it can give a nice, context about the topic before we start get complain about the productive criticism about Japan's business environment and startup ecosystem. So let's get started with that. So, what inspires you to start your company? How did you test your idea with is it needed or not? So, give us something like what inspired you first. Okay, so according to my notes, we have Mary and Sandrine first because they are in the same company. Shall we get started? Mary and Sandrine?
Yes, so myself, as I was saying, I follow my husband in his assignments, so I had to be away of the workforce for a few times. I took 3 career breaks, and of course, it's difficult to re-enter because recruiters will ask basically, are you still belong? Are you able to readjust? Are you able to commit? Are you able to. And so they're challenging your worth and value. So I wanted to help women face these systemic barriers and also to build a business that is portable let's say, so I can bring with myself. That's why we are building an app and a platform, and it's something that we can do all over the world, I would say. So the idea is really to help women reclaim their value, handle tough conversations, negotiate what they want, and get back their career.
Easy. Thanks, Marie. How about Sandrine?
Yes, so to found a company, you need to be passionate about your customer and not your product. So with Marie, we were passionate about empowering women, as Marie was mentioning, especially in Japan, because you follow your husband and you're stuck, you don't speak Japanese, you cannot have a normal job in a company. So we decided to create our own job. And but building a company is being passionate about your customer, but also I think we ask ourselves the question because we met earlier. We've been building a brand for 2 years. So when you find a co-founder in a way where you go through challenges and to happiness and so on, then I think you're ready to go further.
May I ask, did you guys know before coming to Japan?
No.
After coming to Japan, because of the common challenges we have, you come together, become a community, and yes.
I remember we met 1 month after arriving in Japan, and immediately we had the same value, the same goals, so it helps a lot.
Yeah, and that's an advice for all the aspiring founders. If you can find your co-founder, the earlier the better.
Yes.
Okay, so let's continue with Jemiel. So what inspires you to start your company?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah. Honestly, I was frustrated by how much plastic waste was being burned and dumped, especially the types that we can recycle through that can't be recycled through traditional means. So, more than that, I felt a deep responsibility for the future of my daughters. It's different. It's one thing when you're living for yourself to just live selfishly in the world, but when you have your kids who are coming up behind you and they got to inherit the world that you leave, it became very important to me to make sure that I did my part. So just being burdened by that new felt responsibility, I decided to push forward with addressing the issue that I knew was going to be a global one. So the market was there, and once I determined that the plastic waste was a viable source and that there were commercial applications for it, then I moved forward with the business idea once it was validated. So, yeah.
Sounds great. Both economically viable and socially important. Amazing. Not just socially, environmentally important. Amazing. Thanks for doing this, honestly.
Yeah, so I was inspired to do this particular market area because I just saw how difficult it was, even for well-established and well-funded companies and even some government agencies, to establish these security programs from scratch. It's one thing to work in a program that's already established, but going from 0 to 1 is very difficult. It requires a lot of broad and deep expertise, and which is typically why you'll see companies leverage outside consultants to build these programs out. And so when I shared my thoughts with a lot of my contacts within the defense industry, there was a lot of positive feedback, especially getting a lot of small businesses because compliance and these security programs are barriers to entries to a lot of these markets.
Okay, how about Sydney?
Yeah, so actually, I hate to start off being negative, but I am one of those people that was always like, I absolutely don't want to have my own business. It's too hard. I don't want to be on the line for that. But after moving to Japan and seeing that there was so many problems, it kind of became an issue of if I don't do it, maybe nobody will, and the problem needs to be solved. And so that developed into what we're working on now. So yeah, mainly it was really frustrating that I would be able to walk into a restaurant and I speak Japanese and suddenly people's faces would change completely. Like, oh my God, thank goodness I can communicate with this person. I just thought that was really sad, that there was absolutely no support for these restaurants that were doing their best. And on the other hand, my mother, for example, comes a lot, comes to visit, doesn't speak any Japanese, and she has the current tools, but they don't do a good enough job, and she ends up relying on me a lot to get her the rest of the way. And I can't imagine that, if these are only my personal experiences, there's a whole world of people that are having the same problem, even worse potentially if maybe English isn't your first language and then an English menu that's kind of half efforted is all you get. That creates friction between both sides. And as a socially, involved person, I just felt like this was a problem that needed to be solved, and I was in a position to be able to do that. So I ended up starting a business sort of against my better judgment.
I see. Okay. So I started to see, uh, I think we also put it in the chat for sure. The problem that they're tackling either their problem or they face that problem often by the other people. So just like a patient versus doctor analogy, or they have a combination of it. That's the pattern that we're seeing here so often uh, in this cohort as well. So amazing to know, and it adds up a lot of great context here. So I think we should get started by talking the real stuff here, right? So I was gonna ask you guys what you were doing before, but maybe you could merge that into your answer. So that gives more context because in order to manage the time, I will just move forward the next one. So basically, what are some challenges that you faced uh, while you're starting your own business in Japan? You can be brutally honest, all right, guys? You can be brutally honest. Like legal work, bank setup, gaining the customer trust, and so on. We hear a lot of problems which they are repeating. Some of them they almost become like cliche, but it's really a problem. If something become cliche, it means it's repeating a lot. It become a regular problem. So tell us something, and maybe you could add a little bit a context of what you were doing before to start this company too. So and transition to the challenges. All right. That being said, I'm gonna go with the same right order. By the way, a quick context again. Um, Almost half of them set up their companies here in Japan. Other half, a little more than half, uh, set up their company overseas, but they live here. Only one person don't live here, but I guess used to live here, which is Jamil. Maybe we should start with the Jamil. Um, so let us know, what kind of things that you faced here, the problems to work with working here.
The problems are numerous. I mean, of course, like you said, there's the banking problem where they make it very hard for you to open a bank account there to operate out of. So a lot of people have accounts and businesses outside of the country and just operate that way. But to qualify for certain things that you need, like like management visas or work visas, you actually have to be established in Japan. So those are some hurdles that you need to find good lawyers that work with. Scriveners, I'm not sure if that's how the word is pronounced, but people who can help you register the company and are familiar with the legal landscape in Japan. Outside of banking and establishing the company, just finding partners. Like to find partners in Japan, it's kind of hard to do it with cold calls over the internet. I ended up spending over 110 days in Japan last year because it just became brutally clear to me that I needed to be in people's faces in their office. And because of the language barrier, I ended up having to find a really good interpreter who spoke technically and could also translate back and forth, my message. And so finding all of those pieces and putting them together is kind of what made it hard. But on the other side of it here, it was all worth it. So um, I think the biggest thing when it comes to partnering and working in Japan, you almost have to work or partner with some of the larger companies. So It's important to establish those relationships, even if it's early stage, so that when you get to the point where you're asking for partnerships or for investments or anything like that, you already have an established relationship, because they don't do business in Japan for a couple of months. If you get into a partnership, then you're pretty much locked in for as long as you're willing and able to establish that. So trust is big, and establishing it is hard but worthwhile.
Your story particularly interesting and different because you're not living here, but you set up a company here, right? You're
Right.
thinking about moving here.
Right.
Yeah, that so we're gonna circle you back later because we want to know your other motivations, right? Um, let's see. Okay, let's talk more about the channel. I wanna know from everyone here. We can go randomly, but I can just go with the with the list. Um, I will go with the same order. Let's go. Like Sandrine and Mary. Let us know the problems. I know you have a lot of problems that you tackle.
Um, I think that the challenge was to avoid the Japanese cliche. So you were asking what we were doing before founding the company. And in fact, we didn't know, but we prepared the founding. So we had workshops with Japanese audience to better know them. And I agree that with the patient and doctor analogy, however, I think that we need to keep the distance. So the workshop helped us to understand our target, but the way we help the target has changes through time until we start funding the company. So we struggle with a lot of cliche. Sometimes you are disappointed because it's difficult in Japan with the tatemae. So they have this poker face, they don't share spontaneously. And as Jamel was saying, you need to build trust to really understand their pain. So the struggle in Japan, besides the administrative burden, which is intense, is to really know your target.
All right, Mary?
Yes, I wanted to add on that because, of course, we used to be leading complex projects. So when you do that, you interact a lot, you collaborate, so you need to build those skills. So we wanted to educate and empower on those skills. And of course, we were also doing mentoring and so on. So for me, what was a challenge in Japan was really the traditional and conservative mindset, when you are used to change and this fast pace, and here it really stop you and you face the wall because you have no choice than slow and slow, and sometimes you don't understand why it's so slow. So it's a challenge to innovate, and I think startups are innovators. We want to solve problems. So the challenge is really to understand the business culture and yeah, get along with that, trying to enter the window if you cannot go from the door. But it's a lot of humility as well.
Yeah,
That's
I
for me.
see. Most definitely. Okay, Dell, Sydney, issues. Give us the problems.
So like I said, I came from a journalism background, so I started interfacing with our clients a lot. In terms of problems, so I think actually many people in our field are dealing with this. So in Japan, in order to legally
It's
run a
hard.
business,
It's hard to hear you. Could you a little bit approach more?
okay, I don't want my voice to be great up there. So I'm gonna turn my video off for this so I can talk to you real close to the screen. So I think a lot of people in our cohort have the same problem, but in order to legally run a business in Japan, you have to have a certain kind of visa, right? So because I've already been living and working in Japan as an independent person, I'm not married, I don't have a family that's connected here, one of the largest issues has been being able to run my business legally. So officially we're able to do what we do, But once it comes tax season, there's a lot of paperwork and red tape to be able to continue with it. So I think that's one of the largest challenges. Even if you're doing everything right, as a foreign person attempting to do business in Japan, unless you have the scaffolding of a marriage visa or something like that, there's a lot of red tape to be able to do something by yourself. So I would definitely recommend looking for either a Japanese co-founder who can kind of lead the business legally, or go into it knowing that there's a lot of hurdles related to that. I mean, I think in terms of myself, because of that, it prevents me from quitting my day job and being a founder full time. So that's something also to consider and be prepared for if you want to join this world.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You're also pretty unique in that sense because I guess you're the only person who is like fully independent. They come to Japan and sustain the visa and so on. We're also going to a little bit tap into visa issues too. Coming probably alone here will be a lot harder. Sounds like that. Honestly speaking, I did the same pathway. So my wife is a foreigner, but we met in the US. So it was very helpful. She was very helpful to help me to move to Japan, of course. But our business also get some traction, so it was a good motivation for us. Anyway, Richard, give us the last part of your story, why you came here, what you were doing, sorry, what you were doing before that, and challenges.
Yeah, so I think my reason for coming to Japan was just I got offered a job and I took it. The money was pretty good, better than what I was making in the US at the time. But I'd say one of my biggest challenges of starting a business here in Japan was just setting up the right legal and financial infrastructure for a venture scale company in Japan. I initially worked with a solicitor who had no experience working and supporting startups aiming to get outside investment. So typically, they want people that want to set up like a restaurant or something that's more of a lifestyle business. And so that just created a lot of unnecessary delays. You're looking at just getting everything registered and stamped. It's a month process, and then that follows up with probably the hardest part is the Japanese bank account, which when you apply to a bank, they recommend you apply to multiple at the same time because each one of those banks is going to take 1 month just to give you a yes or no. And when they say no, it's going to be all secret. It's going to fall under anti-money laundering. And yes, for me, it's just created this 12-month ordeal. So I'm still working through it. And so if I was going to do it again, and if I'd probably hire a specialty company that specializes in setting up a Japanese entity. But that is very expensive. So if you're going to use something like that with government fees, which can be about like 300,000 yen just for the registering and all the applicable fees, you're looking at maybe 2 million yen total cost. That's not including if you have the right visa. So to get through the banking, you probably need a PR visa, or you need to get someone who has Japanese citizenship. And if they're not the founder, that creates costs on its own because you need to now hire them as an employee. So just things to consider setting up here in Japan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, all the like someone here, Yanir Gonzalez also spot some great patterns here. As you guys all see, um, issues are around mostly both business culture and including the mindset and stuff and language, plus the regulatory or ease of doing business. So around clustering around these areas. So there are some solutions in there, but it's pretty early stage, honestly. I'm always very much surprised at how Japan's venture ecosystem coming behind, on speaking, in terms of progression and development. It it is a developed country, it is very much industrialized country, but at the same time, it's very strange, like tech ecosystem, startups, that sort of thing is coming a bit behind. than many countries actually. It just doesn't add up for me. I'm trying to figure out too. I'm learning a lot here. So I want to a little bit tap into because everyone here foreign, honestly. So how different is to work with the Japanese investors, or partners, customers, anyway, Japanese people in general, versus or in compared to your own home country, or what you expected. All right, let's get started. I'm gonna go again the same order because it's much more organized. Mary and Sandra, I'm going to ask them first.
Quickly,
What?
so the difference is that you need to provide a lot of information upfront, a lot of detail, and what matters is your vision, but also your to be precise. So you need to provide a lot of information upfront.
Yeah, interesting. Mary?
Um, for me, I would add on the process, the sales process that's so long. So you have to be really patient to build the trust. And also during meetings, and it's the communication is really a challenge because as it was said earlier, it's difficult to know. You have polite conversation, polite agreement, but you can't trust this politeness. And to be able to see beyond all this uh, conformity, and so it's to observe the nonverbal cue. For me, one example is to allow the silence in the meetings, not willing to like have discussion, an ongoing discussion. It was quite a surprise at first.
Yeah, right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. So you know what? Most people think that Japanese people have trust issue to foreigners. Actually, as foreigners, we have trust issue to the Japanese people because we just can't read it. We can't identify easily. They don't want to show real true feelings, or they don't want to say no. Even saying no is a kata, here is a kata for saying no, which is the way of doing. It's fascinating. Anyways, questions also coming from the audience. All right, Jamil. So tell us like differences.
It was very different for me coming from the States. Here in the States, we live a run and gun kind of lifestyle. We want everything fast, everything instant. So, just getting meetings with people is hard. But then once you get to those meetings, you think, oh yeah, we made an agreement here in this meeting, or it seemed like they wanted to move forward and we were on the same page. And communication is drip drip. It's not moving fast like we're used to. We want results, but that's just not the way the Japanese people move. So everything starts with trust, and that's going to be like a key point that's going to run through everyone's conversation, because trust is everything here, because they want to work with people long term, and the only way to make that type of commitment is to trust. So you might be going out to drink after meetings because they enjoy that and they get to socialize and better understand who you are on a personal level. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that's some of the things that I've experienced. But once you have that trust, things tend to move a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's interesting that in order to build trust, they drink alcohol after the work, and that's a bit strange for me, honestly. So by getting drunk, or maybe that's the logic there, right? So you can see their true face. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Okay, Richard.
I'd definitely say the language barrier is probably the most challenging in terms of like dealing with Japanese investors. Because if you don't speak Japanese, you're missing out like probably on the majority of investors here in Japan. But the one upside with dealing with Japanese investors, especially if you're uh, domiciled here in Japan and you're incorporated here in Japan, uh, there's a you'll get less friction from the Japanese banks on getting that investment. I think unless you have a special license from the bank, your daily limit is like 1 million yen transferred from overseas. So if you're dealing with an overseas investor, like here's a $100,000 check. Well, you may not be able to bring it into your Japanese bank account, and that could be a deal killer right there.
So I see. So I'm trying to see pattern here and ask the
Yeah.
audience. So if I see it, but if I talk, I will be talking too much. I want to refrain myself, and I want to let the audience decide. Um, anyways, but one of the important pattern here is the trust issue between us. I mean, between us means the foreigners, the gaikokujin, and and the locals, the Japanese, Nihonjin. So, both business perspective and human level too, actually. So my next question is regarding that because I think this is one of the most important thing. For my own startup company, I don't know, it's kind of privileged maybe. It was so hard. It was so easy to find a customer for me initially. Then it gets harder. But my ties with the overseas was more stronger. So their need was so urgent and extremely like a bleeding problem. That's why they were saying yes that time. But after coming and living here, it gets a bit harder because I become a local. So my differentiation become less instead of more global thing. Anyway, so um okay. The question is, how did you build trust with your first customer or partner or an investor? Doesn't matter. How did you break that wall? Okay, starting from again the same Sandrine and Mary.
Yes, so I agree with Jamel. You need a lot of meetings, and the tricky point is that you don't have an agenda because you explained. So you just have a meeting to maintain the relation. So you need to find additional or new information to provide them with. Could be research information most of the time to keep the relation ongoing. Also, as foreigner, it's a great opportunity because you have contact with other foreigner in Japanese company. So in a way, it's easier than to build trust. And also to build trust is to anticipate the objections they may have because they won't say it. So you need to understand in the way they say it that there is an issue or something that is disturbing or that you should answer.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot of observation and anticipation. Um, the good skill set is the questioning to, explore. For me, one key differentiator is really the introduction. So if you can have someone, it's always better to be introduced in Japan. It facilitates a lot.
Find an insider. I did the same by the way. So my partner, basically my wife, helped me out. And they become a business partner. So she helped me out for that. But initial ones, the people I was in Bay Area and I was in a Japanese community. So I built some friendship there. And it wasn't easy to get a warm introduction for that. Yeah, it was quite a work actually to gain their trust also to get some. But after moving here, we partner with a local company. Again, the partnerships always comes out, right? Um, Partnerships not in a way that joint venture style thing. It's just some sort of collaborator, someone that who can you can gain the trust, that connector that connects to many people. That's a very helpful thing, I guess. Anyways, um, okay, Jamil. So how did you build a trust with
Uh,
them?
Personally, I built trust by showing up consistently and being honest about what I could and couldn't do. I listened, followed through on every promise that I made, no matter how small it was, and focused on building real relationships. That's where the after meetings, those relationships are what lead to the actual deals that you want. So over time, you just got to keep beating on that door. If you're serious about establishing those relationships, like Sandrine and everyone else is saying, you got to can commit to multiple meetings. Sometimes you feel like you're wasting your time. Sometimes you feel like you're running up against the same obstacle, but eventually you'll tear down that wall as long as you're consistent and it's what you know, consistent and honest. And warm introductions, as everyone else has said, is key. I've been blessed that I've been working with Jetro, and they pretty much helped me to make contact with some of these larger companies that we're working with. And I don't think that without, I know that without those introductions, about those warm introductions where either an individual who worked for the company or an organization like Jetro comes to make the introduction, it's very hard to even get those meetings, much less moving forward to actionable clients and partners.
Yeah. That's definitely works for sure. The number of the programs like this, like Jetro provides, pretty less. I mean, it's getting a lot. It's getting more than before for sure. Now, if I compare to, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, uh, but it's still less if you compare to maybe closest benchmark like Korea. There are hundreds of programs. If you exaggerate, like there are over 300 accelerator programs there with multiple angles, niches, and stuff like that. But here still fewer. I wish we could have more. Anyways, thank you so much. Richard, tell us like how did you build trust here?
Yeah, well, trust, I find, especially in security, is very personal. So it's about your character as an individual and your history. So with security, within the security industry, it's all about like, what have you done? Who do you know? And getting those warm introductions is so important, because those are going to be your first early testimonials to like, yeah, this person knows what he's doing. I've had success. And I think with here in Japan, there's this adage of like Japanese don't really brag as much as you'd see with other countries, so they tend to under-promise and over-deliver. So with like in America, where we kind of over-promise and then like, it's good enough, 80% of what we promised. It doesn't really fly here in terms of like their attitude, because like your word is your bond, but so you gotta have different messaging for different audiences.
Interesting. So you need to under promise and over deliver here.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, like you either want to be like right on target, like what you promise, but you don't want to promise something and not deliver on that.
yeah, definitely. Timothy also mentioned similar things too. Yeah, that definitely. This is also another pattern, right? They're obsessed with the
Yeah,
quality, and yeah, that builds stars for sure.
but I've
Um,
also seen it work against Japanese. So unless it's like super perfect, like because they don't want to burn their bridges early by giving someone a not finished product, so they'll never launch or they'll just keep delaying. It's not perfect, not perfect. And as you know, perfect is the enemy of good. So watch
mm,
out for that.
I see what you mean. Yeah, that's important because we are in the venture and startups is all about trying, building, failing fast, so we can learn, reiterate, and continue and so on, right? So, as you said, it's the completely opposite mindset of this. Um. So, anyways, oh, interesting. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm gonna circle back and then one I want you guys to answer me very, very honestly. Like full transparency, okay? Were there any moments that because I'm curious about like how severe these problems are. Was it like severe as much as like you could give up entirely of entire idea, right? So were there any moment, my question is, were there any moment you felt like giving up, right? And maybe you could add some like what helps you to keep going and so on. So any moment that you feel like you're giving up. We're gonna circle back again the same format. So Sandri and Mary.
You want the truth, or we keep the image of
No, you can be
No,
brutally
I'm
honest.
just joking. I'm just joking. Of course, there were plenty of moments of doubts and roller coaster, emotional roller coaster. It's not easy to start up a business. It's less easy to do a startup. So yes, and what help, I think two things. For me, one is the self-reflection. So being able to observe that. And the second, of course, is to take action, either ask for help, either discuss. In my case, is with my co-founder, and remember your why you initially started this, and how it feeds you, at a deep level. So that helped a lot to be back on track.
Most definitely. Sandy?
Nothing more to say. No, that's true that we are discussing a lot. So hopefully that's why we were saying when starting the webinar, being two, it's really a benefit to at any from any perspective. So if you want to launch a startup, better to have a co-founder before. It helps a lot.
Definitely. So you raised very important point, Mary. I will see that is there any other pattern known as the same? So I might be maybe comment on that, which is the psychological burdens to the founder. This is universally challenging for sure. Your background is psychology, right, Mary?
Yes, I do.
So, so that's interesting. Thanks for. I think we should definitely talk on that particular topic separately. Maybe it could be a different topic too later. So it's interesting. It's universally, but in Japan, I hear a lot of stories that how much mentally people struggle, especially entrepreneurs. Not just only entrepreneurs, but also, of course, people who works for companies too. Interesting. All right, let's go to Jamil. Tell us like, did you have any moment that you want to give up?
Did I have moments? Absolutely. There were moments when everything felt stacked against me, honestly. Operating from here in the States, trying to establish a business in Japan. That's really why I ended up having to be there for so long last year, because being boots on the ground makes a huge difference. Funding is slower there than it is here in the States. The setup of your company is tough, and the pressure is real. But what kept me going was remembering why I started, to solve a global problem, to build something meaningful for my family and the planet. That was my motivation. So support from mentors and groups like Founders Institute, my team, my wife and family, and just taking it one step at a time is what made all the difference. Because without this support and without this, anchor, it's kind of hard to stay focused and keep the toe in the line. So you definitely need support. You need accountability partners. You need anybody who's gonna keep you going and who has like Founders Institute has a platform here to not only connect you to mentors, but to other founders like yourself who are going through the same problems, who you can relate to, and help you get to the other end of it, not feeling like you're alone.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the shout out as well. Richard, any moment that you wanted to give up?
Hi. Yeah, definitely. Like the Japanese banking has just been so infuriating for me that I've been thinking about just like dissolving my Japanese KK and just starting a US entity equivalent and get everything done within a week. Banking, corporate registration. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's so funny that it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big believer that I should be helping grow the areas that I'm living in, which is why I want to try and keep it in Japan as much as I can. But if it's just going to be such a roadblock that I conduct business, that it's not much I can do.
Gonna, accept a question from the audience. So first off, let's start with the Alice Nur, which is, how did you get started the idea that you should be starting business in Japan? How did you get the idea that you should be starting in Japan? I think we kind of somehow covered this question with the how did you but I think it would be repeating all the things that we talk here. How about be answer one person, which is uh a leader from a volunteer for that particular question in order to just answer. So how did you get the idea of that you should be starting in Japan? You could be starting anywhere else. Anybody wants to pick up this question?
My comment is, um, yeah, my company could have done probably best in the US, but I just thought my name was so good. I wanted to keep make it a Japanese company. And with the name Nakatomi, if you're not familiar with the movie Die Hard, it's actually originates from there. So little movie trivia there.
I see. Anybody will answer the same question? Could be different country. Why Japan?
Because we were stuck in Japan. So as
Yeah,
trading exposed, so we had to do something.
I see. I think everybody has a Japan story. That's the reason. That's why we're all here. What was your financial situation at the start? That's a good one, actually. We should definitely know this. So you could maybe we could just run entirely that question. You can be very honest. Which is yeah. We should be really helpful by being transparent, right? Some of you are working for a full-time company, right? So what was your financial situation before you start? What were you what were your level of income of savings before starting your company and during the first month of funding the company, starting the company, basically. You don't have to disclose very private information, financial information. It just it makes sense actually to ask a question to someone who's starting a business event, right? So who wants to go first?
Yeah, I could probably touch on that. Me here in the States, I have a real estate development company that I've been running since I finished college, and I essentially been using my profits from that to bootstrap the R&D that we've been doing over the years and the development process. So since our system is hardware, not software, and we're actually building, pretty significant machinery, it's been very capital intensive. And so I've had to invest quite a bit in terms of time, energy, and finances. And that's put a bit of a strain on our family, but now here, sitting here on this side of it, it's definitely been worth it. So, I mean, it's depending on where you are. Sometimes, like uh, Richard put in the chat, that you got to build it or sell it before you build it, so that you can actually, have revenue coming in. That's necessary. Our research and development facilities, they don't produce revenue per se, but they produce enough oil to sell to essentially keep the research going. So it's been a struggle, but anything worth having is going to be hard, and so definitely put some thought into what position you're going to be in while you're trying to chase this dream. But
All right. Anybody else? Like,
Well, I will say starting a business is not for someone who's probably just fresh out of high school or has no savings at all. Focus on covering at least 2 years worth of your living expenses. So if either you have more money or you lower your living expenses, uh, and then here in Japan, that cost of setting up the company is a lot higher than other companies. So if you're tight on budget, look at other companies. And it's mostly you don't need a company to start building or like selling. There's a lot of other like avenues like Fiverr if you're doing personal services. But company is great if you're looking for outside investment in the future and as a entity to hold your IP. It's not necessarily patents, but like your trademark, your source code, so that way, whatever you build, and especially if you're building with people, there's not going to be a fight over who owns it. It's the company that owns it.
I see. And how about okay, Dell and Tim, because you guys are working full time, right? And you're using, I think this is a common pattern. most people utilize some sort of other income source or some saving for bootstrap the idea initially, then eventually switch. But Sandrine Marie,
For us,
So
the challenge, I think is a bit different. So we are full time because, as we explained earlier, we follow our husband in expatriation. So I would say I don't have to pay a rent monthly, but yeah, you need your savings to start, and that's a challenge, of course. What else, Sandrine?
no, we need to be careful. Yeah, no, all has been said.
in my case, it was like we bootstrap with the consultant revenue and we start building a product and many other things. But we needed to be so much scrappy and frugal that most people think that we are not doing good at all. So we were living in a UR that is extremely cheap and a far fetched from the city, Tokyo, in Tamashi. I don't know if people know this or not. It's really reasonable price, and you need to climb a lot of hills. So we did it for saving money, just in case. And then we end up by over 10 years of runway of our team and employees. So I was counting and even a coffee. I was like buying coffee from 7-Eleven instead of Starbucks. That sort of small details. Every yen we counted just to stay afloat, just in case, just in case. Bootstrapping, I think I see the pattern here is the bootstrapping is the key. And especially initial phase. Nobody born here with a silver spoon, right? That's the reality. Everybody is truly hustlers, and it's a grind work, right? That question was really important. Thank you for who was asking. Benoit. Benoit, thanks for this. I should have mentioned cover this question. Anyways, but it's been great. I won't be able to accept all the questions. I try to prioritize things. Um, but it's been great. Let me see. Okay, someone how to pronounce your name? Ghazali. Ghazali is saying that. What are the? He says, or she. I would like to hear some post experts starting business in Japan compared to other countries. Yes, this is the where we're gonna talk right now, which is the last question. So tell us like what are some positive sides plus like the bright side, opportunistic side. And maybe you can also wrap it your action plan, which is some final advice. The bright side and some final advice. So which you want with one round, but for wrapping up this conversation. Okay. Let's start with the same order again. Sandrine and Mary.
So in Japan, you have plenty of opportunities to network, to attend to commercial fairs, and most of them are free of charge. So this is networking in Japan is really easy in that way. So building relationship takes time, but you can meet a lot of people quickly. You have plenty of networking opportunity.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Mary?
I think the challenge was again the language barrier, because sometimes the events are full in Japanese, especially the ecosystem startup that is, let's say, gaining more and more activity, and it's good to see, but sometimes frustrating because you end up in a place where everything is in Japanese, or also because the way the networking or the events are organized, it's very formal and not interactive, and sometimes you can't access the speakers, you can't really network. So it's yeah, I agree that we have plenty of opportunity and among let's say international for us who speak Japanese, but it's also a challenge to embrace the Japanese ways of doing. Say.
We say positive things.
Oh, sorry. I'm
The positive.
tired. I'm hungry. So I missed that part. Positive. Okay, next person.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, it's not that easy to find a but actually it's opportunistic. It's growing for sure, right? The startup ecosystem is gaining good uh, momentum. Um, but I agree one point that it's it's worth to double click on this, which is events and stuff actually pretty much local and Japanese language and hard to access that. And we're trying so hard to create, organize English mostly events or bilingual events. But the local people a bit shy to attend these events. That's a bit disappointing. Even though how much they need to go global, they always say that we need to go global. But we're bringing a lot of stuff to your own homeland, and they still hesitate in to join. Why? Because they can speak, they understand English somehow, but at least they could be participating, supporting. Again, I end up with a challenge again. Sorry, but
But the good
anyways,
part is that FI is full English, and really for us it was, and not only Japan, but Korea and Taiwan. So it's also a real good opportunity online, because we talk about the time, the challenge and the time management challenge. So having a full global, full English program, that was really, yeah, a great opportunity for us.
thank you so much. All right, to wrap up with Jamil, give us some bright side and some final advice to
Yeah,
audience.
okay. I would say a little goes a long way here. So, if you, I know, even if English is your first language, if you're studying Japanese, if you're showing signs that, Nihongo ga benkyou chu desu, skoshi wakarimasu, then, at least they understand that you're putting effort into learning their language, learning their culture. It's not just, oh, this English speaker, this American's trying to come over here and do business. And a little goes a long way in that effort. But also, one, it is hard to establish those relationships, but if you really put in the effort and the time, once you have established them, I mean, you're pretty much set for life, barring you do something to take yourself out of that. So long-term partnerships are favored here, which is good for long-term business. And if you could put in that time and that effort to get past that hurdle, then it'll be worth it for you in the long run.
Oh, thank you, Jam. And see, I'm pretty sure that some people think that we only talk about the negatives and things, just like he is asking the same question right to us. Actually, it's really important to mention these hardships, which mostly we talk in the entire event. So people, it's actually the best way of to informing people upfront. We care them, and then they should be really aware of what are the challenges. It doesn't mean that if someone else is watching this and in that way, just a quick disclaimer: we are not here to uh disencourage you or to not start something here. There are a lot of opportunities, but we could maybe do another event for that, opportunity wise. Um, but those are the challenges. We have to know the reality, and I wanted to be, getting the insights from our cohort, recent cohort. So perhaps it resonated with some people, perhaps. All right, Richard, some bright side and to wrap up, some final advice.
Well, I'll say like bright side is establishing a Japanese entity here is great because it gives you access to like the cheap capital still here in Japan. Like interest rates are really low, so if you're looking for a business loan, uh, it's very affordable terms. And other things is like some Japanese companies or individuals will only work with Japanese companies. So if there's no alternatives, they'll go with the foreign companies. But generally speaking, they're very proud of supporting local companies. So if you're internationally minded, and you're looking to like tackle the Japanese market, establishing that entity here in Japan will give you that inside track for those types of individuals and companies.
I see. Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
I had a point. We know that the Japanese market is unique and very difficult. So if you succeed in Japan, I think you have a lot of chances to succeed elsewhere. That's for sure. But when we started with Marie the FI cohort, we just had a broad idea of what we wanted to do. And I was surprised because the program is so well structured that we came to until the end, and we didn't believe that. We said, "Oh, yes, we validate our ideas, and then we'll go on by ourselves and so on." But the way it's formalized, it helps you to keep really the pace and to progress. So in 2 months, it's amazing. We starting from nothing, having a product, having a community and so on. And it's really amazing. And it's more amazing within the Japanese unique market.
Well, thank you for the shout out for the FI as well. I mean, if anybody else wants to add any testimony, that would be appreciated.
Yeah. I will say, like, don't. If the only thing that's holding you up is finding a co-founder, especially here in Japan, it's quite difficult, especially if you don't speak Japanese. And sometimes you just have to like say, you know what, I want to do this, and just pull the trigger. And then as you build, you find more like-minded individuals, and people can become co-founders after you've already established the company. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Great. Omega, it's been great, and it's great talk, honestly. You know what? We should do one-on-one webinar style things, or podcast style, because I have a YouTube channel. I want to put content. It would be great. Each of you deep dive your story, why you started, what are these challenges, opportunities. Maybe later, if you could have common time online, current online possible on it because traveling overseas. Anyways, it's been great. So let's wrap this up. And a final word from me is if you're curious, if you want to start a company, and if you want to try out, you can come and try. You don't have to build alone. It's a very unique and friendly support system that we built and we brought to Japan. And it's pretty global, but almost everyone is bilingual. So even though we speak English primarily, actually, we can also support Japanese support, or also other languages support, like Korea and Chinese as well. And it's in this region. So you don't need to be shy about it. Just fill the application for the getting a DNA test. You don't have to finish the application so you don't have to apply the program. Get the DNA first. Let's see. At least we could become friends and accountants, more than accountants actually. So FI Founder Institute can help with that. As you can see, these shout outs and testimonials happened organically actually. I didn't ask during the session. So thank you for the founders who join our program here and who become panelists today, for sharing their insights and really um, friendly opinions about Japan's ease of doing business here. Really appreciate it. It's been great. Thank you so much for everyone joining. All right. Bye, everyone. I'm going to stay
Thank you.
here for further networking if anyone wants to talk with me in the same room, basically. So, but if anyone wants to leave, it's fine. Bye, everyone.